Hello there. I listened to a piece of audio a few weeks ago that I thought was interesting, but I didn't totally get it. But this past week, I've been thinking about it and thought, oh, I kind of really like this, and I want to see if I can explain it because I've been finding it helpful and interesting. The audio was on the Waking Up app, and it was called "It's Worse Than You Think" by an author named Oliver Burkeman. And essentially, the idea is that when facing an issue, Oliver Burkeman believes that we might not be pessimistic enough in our outlook of the situation, and his suggestion is to ask, what if the problem is actually worse than you think it is? So let me explain a little more with an example. So let's say you're at work or your own task, and you just have so much to do, just this long list of things to get done. In my own case, as an animator, let's say I just have like a huge shot list, just an impossibly huge list of shots that I have to get done for work. And I might think like, oh man, like this is gonna take so much discipline, so much grinding, like this is gonna be rough. And Oliver Burkeman is here to say, well, hang on, what if it's actually worse than you think it is? What if actually the problem is not the huge amount of work that you have to do to get it done? The problem is that it is an impossibly long list of things to get done. You can't get all these things done. That's the real problem. Even if you finish one task, which is very true in my situation, there'll just be several more after. In my situation, when I turn in a shot, it usually gets kicked back with notes. So it never ends. In fact, when I was a lead on a show one time, an animation lead, and someone on my team was struggling a lot. They were incredibly talented, incredibly fast, getting all these shots in, but I can tell they were getting burnt out. And so at one point, I pulled them aside and said, "Hey, like the amount of work that we're doing is impossible. So like, do not burn yourself out. Like, I would rather you just go at a proper professional pace that's healthy, getting the work done and doing your best. Like, do not die for this cartoon." So that's scratching at, I think, what Berkman's getting at. But he extends this idea beyond just accomplishing tasks, also into global phenomena, trying to understand it, or feeling of imposter syndrome, or relationships you're in. And he explains them better than I think I can. But I'll try to give some brief examples, right? Like with imposter syndrome, the issue isn't like, oh no, like I have to make sure everyone knows that like I can be up to speed and I can do this, even though I feel like I'm not supposed to be here. Berkman's here to say, what if the problem is that actually everybody feels like this and we're all just winging it? It's kind of like that. It's this kind of macro look at things, and naturally you're probably like, well, this sounds like bad. Like, this sounds like a nihilistic way to look at things. But I'm finding it to be kind of freeing, because it's like the problem is that you feel like you have this total control of an issue, when in reality you don't. And so more of the suffering comes from this feeling of like clenching, of just like, oh, I have the power to change this, and I have to change it. I just have to pull through. And it's sort of like, no, like the plane already crashed a long time ago, but you're still bracing for impact. Like, just stop bracing for that impact that's already happened. This is a little abstract, and this really only made sense to me, admittedly, while I was high. But also while meditating. I was meditating, and I was realizing that you know, I was just carrying still all the momentum of my day, all this anxiety and all this like, oh man, like I gotta do this, and like, oh, there's this thing, and oh man, and that thing too. And there was this subtle feeling of like, but when I do all these things, like then I can relax. And I started to, that became clear as I was meditating. And I was like, wait, I'll never finish all these tasks. Like it's never going to happen. So why don't I just relax right now? That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. That if you're ever feeling like this sort of anxiety around changing your situation and waiting for your life to start, it's like your life already started. Like you're already in it right now, so you can stop waiting. It's abstract, and I'm probably not explaining it the best I can, but it was something that hit me a little this week that I thought was powerful, and I wanted to try and communicate it. Probably should have written some stuff down to make it easier on myself, but you know what, I thought I'd keep it raw for you guys. Keep it real, you know, right off the cuff. So anyway, you know, even if you do finish that impossible list of things you have, I can almost guarantee that you'll just ask yourself, well, what now? I mean, I certainly do. Every time I finish a huge project, I'm like, well, I guess I have to make another one now, right? It's like when I feed my dog, you know, whenever my dog wants, you know, he's listening, so I'm not going to say the word, but it starts with a D and ends with inner. But, whenever I give it to him, or rather when I'm getting it ready, he's clenched. He looks like stressed, like that kibble is his world. And then the moment I pour it and he devours it in an instant, he looks at me like, oh, well, now what? Completely unsatisfied. Weird example there, but all I'm saying is, all I'm trying to say is that you don't have to wait for things to change to try and be present and focused and, like, you know, showing up for your situation right now. Try it right now. Are you waiting for anything right now? What? Boy, I did not intend to be so meditation heavy on my YouTube page, but maybe that's the direction I'm going. Well, I hope this is of interest to some of you, ideally of help. Let me know. Alright, I'll see you next time. Bye.